Welcome to Queen City Cyber Consulting's channel.
Queen City Cyber Consulting coming at you bright and early on this Monday morning. It is August 10th. And if you're not following what's going on, there's a lot happening. There are a lot of attacks underway. We have the water system attacks in a growing number of states. We have the port attack in North Carolina, and now we have this attack called payroll pirates that's going on. Microsoft calls them Storm 2755. They are known as an adversary in the middle campaign. They're after the M365 business email compromises. And they are ongoing. Now, Arctic Fox, another cybersecurity company out there, calls them the payroll pirates. I kind of like payroll pirates better than Microsoft's designation, but hey, that's just me. So what is happening? Well, according to Arctic Fox, it is an active and widespread adversary in the middle, or AiTM, phishing campaign that bypasses multi-factor authentication to perpetrate somewhat stealthy financial intelligence gathering in Microsoft 365 environment. So if your business, your organization, whatever is using Microsoft 365, this should be of interest to you. Now, as we track the threat actors, again, of course, Microsoft calls them Storm 2755. Arctic Wolf calls them payroll pirates. And you'll see in your growth in cybersecurity, this constant back and forth on naming conventions. I wish there was just like one naming convention, but unfortunately there isn't. What's being targeted, though? This is the important part. Healthcare, education, manufacturing, government, and professional services across US, Canada, and Europe. So if you're in one of those organizations there, healthcare, education, manufacturing, government, and professional services, pay attention. You could be a target. What are they trying to do? What's their objective? Well, they want covert access to personnel and financial workflows. So in other words, they're looking at HR, they're looking at finance, those kinds of things in order to harvest wire transfer information, invoice information, and even payroll emails. That way they can get themselves some moolah, get themselves some money. It does replace the noisy mass business email compromise spam with what is a bit more quiet, low and slow passive email exfiltration. BEC is a well-known phraseology in the field, and if you're not familiar with it, you should be. Business email compromise has been going on now for a long time, and if you're going to go into incident response, digital forensics, any kind of cybersecurity, you better know what it stands for and how to defend against it. So what are some of the key threat characteristics? Well, this stealth passive monitoring, they call it, rather than just right away going toward their unauthorized financial transactions or setting up a spam bot, they are actually just sitting quietly within the environment to monitor financial communications and also map out that internal payroll processes. Now, I can't say this is new because back when I was a law enforcement officer, one of our earliest cases involved something very similar to this, and they targeted a local government entity. They got in the network and sat there long enough to get the administrative password for their payroll process, and then struck. And when the CEO of the company came in to process payroll and logged into their bank account, lo and behold, all the money was already gone. It had been sent out the night before because they had a backdoor on their system that allowed them to gather the password, and then they just waited until they knew the schedule, and then when the schedule was due for payroll, they swept in the evening before on a Sunday and stole the money. They do bypass multi-factor authentication. That is a constant that you'll hear people like me and others say in cybersecurity. You need to have MFA, but they use these custom adversary in the middle proxies that actually reverse proxy to genuine Microsoft authentication prompts, which allows them to steal valid OAuth tokens. If you don't know what an OAuth token is, stand by. There's going to be videos coming for that as well. But if you work in cybersecurity, you need to know what OAuth tokens are and also session cookies in order to defend against this. So, what's the breakdown of the life cycle? Well, you noticed an urgent voicemail notification with spoof caller ID with Microsoft branding. That gets them in the door. Then they evade SEGs using Google Meet, link redirect, Google Ads trackers, and Amazon S3 objects. And then they set up their proxy to intercept credentials, session cookies, and complete the legitimate multi-factor authentication challenge. And then they drop their automated scripts to maintain their session every 8 hours via residential proxies to harvest emails. Now, if you don't work in cybersecurity, a lot of that's going to throw you off. Don't let it. If you work in one of the businesses that's targeted, you need to be picking up the phone today and calling your IT staff and saying, hey, saw this video today. What are we doing to protect us against this? Because you are a target. Hate to break it to you, but you are. So, to evade the secure email gateways, SEGs, which you saw in another one, or URL reputation filters, which are sometimes used by businesses, the attackers use trusted infrastructure um, to build their phishing platforms. Here are some of the abused legitimate platforms. You've got meet at google.com. You've got google.com plus the URL and campaign manager tracker. And then you have Amazon Web Services, S3 bucket hosting. They're not against using uh, not web, but cloud services too. And they will. And it's legit because they end up paying for it. They'll use residential proxies. They'll do session refreshes with their scripts that they download, which allows these stolen tokens to refresh every 8 hours or so, giving them that long-term unbroken access. And of course, the proxies route visits through the PHP here to fingerprint browsers and then block automated security crawlers against their environment. So, what are we seeing? Well, in 365, Microsoft 365 sign in logs, the sessions refreshing every 8 hours, coming from these proxy IPs, very high risk. It's an active session hijack, basically. DNS resolution logs is something else you can check because Google Ads domain resolution followed by ones by newly registered proxy domains. How many of you even check to see how long ago a domain was registered? Again, exchange audit logs, automated searching through them for terms like wire, invoice, payroll, direct deposit. Uh, that is active data harvesting. Do you have audit logs enabled? Do you review them? Do you check them? Do you have alerts set up? Questions you should be asking. And of course, device context. The user agent or operating system during the token refresh is compared to the initial logon, um, hopefully allowing them to maintain their persistence. Again, the Storm 2755 toolkit executes automatic background scripts precisely at every 8 hours to refresh their stolen credentials. This mechanical regularity produces a distinct, predictable behavioral fingerprint in your 365 audit logs. You can check for that. You can search for that across your audit logs, and you should be, especially if you watch this video or read something about this. You can do some threat hunting with this information. It's not useless information. It is viable information. So what do? Well, you need to deploy phishing resistant hardware, multi-factor authentication, FIDO2, especially for your high risk finance and HR roles, to render this adversary in the middle technique ineffective. You need to enforce conditional access to any Azure AD or hybrid attached devices, block sign-ins that are coming from anonymizing proxies, and implement your SEG rules to detect outbound Google Meet redirect parameters that point to external cloud storage endpoints that you don't use within your environment. All things you should already be doing, but unfortunately, these attacks are successful because far too often security is behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Here is a comparison of your MFA resistance comparison. Again, you've got your push, your SMS, which I use on some of my accounts. It's only about 20% effective. You've got your SEG email filters, about 55%. But when you get down here to the FIDO2 hardware keys and pass keys, you're about 99.9% effective. So your business, your organization really, really should be looking at enabling these hardware keys and pass keys. So this is just a brief welcome to Monday. This is what's happening. Update in the cybersecurity world. Pay attention, especially if you're in one of those industries. Healthcare, education, government. Government's under attack already via the water systems and the port systems. Who knows what's coming next? So be prepared. This is Queen City Cyber Consulting signing off. Happy Monday. Go forth and conquer.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.